Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of the Sports Crib, brought to you by the Sports Crib Network. Um, I guess I should open with a disclaimer, which we don't usually do, but I'm going to have to start doing on a regular basis, saying that all the opinions expressed on this program are either expressly my own or those of the guests or panelists that we have on, and we are in no way trying to discriminate against any particular group, uh, color, or religion. Uh, as I said, the opinions expressed of those strictly of our own. I'm going to get a disclaimer and run it before the show. While keeping in the commercial vein here, I am James E. King III. Excuse me. As you can see over there on the side, that is where you can find all of our Facebook episodes. And if you go there, you will be directed to our other pages, to an imperfect union, where we talk about political topics, as well as our other show that is done on Friday, called And the Winners Are, where me and Fantasy Guru, Mr. Mike Verlander, talk fantasy lineups and college and NFL football. You can also find me on social media, on Snapchat and Twitter as West Coast Steeler fan, uh, and the Sports Crib. Our YouTube channel is under James E. King III is there, and you can donate and subscribe at our Cash App, $ JE King 3. All donations are for the production and uh, enhancement of our show. Okay, so let's get all the commercial stuff out of the way, and hopefully some of our panel will come in soon. A couple of things that I'm going to talk about kind of independently, since I did not submit any of these particular topics to the panel. See if I can get my lighting quite right here. Okay, a couple of things that I did not submit to the panel, but I have an opinion on. And if we can get Bill and Mr. Anthony Scott in, which I'm hoping that they do come in, that we can maybe discuss these topics, because I'm sure we might be in some disagreement. And that's why we have discussions. People that discuss things do not always share the same opinion. So, the first thing that I want to talk about is the release of Brittany Griner. And I am relieved um, and impressed at the same time that she was able to come home after being detained in Russia for the last 10 months. Now, what I'm going to say may offend some people But this is my opinion. I think that Brittany Griner was brought home so that the Democrats can use this as part of their strategy with the LGBTQ plus community when it comes re-election time in 2024. And I say this as an independent that votes mostly Democrat. And I also say this as a veteran because we have a Marine, and I'm Army. I mean, we have our friendly inter-service rivalries, and we call them jarheads and da 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 da. But when it comes to the veteran community, it's not about what service you were in. It was about the service in which you provided the defense of this country. Even deeper than that, the bond that's built up between that veteran community. Now, they exchanged Brittany for a known terrorist. A known terrorist. Do you think that somehow this man is going to go back and retire? Do you think that the years that he has spent in prison that he is going to be particularly favorable? And a staunch supporter of the United States government? Or do you think he's going to go back and reestablish or refine the network that he had established before he was incarcerated? Now, the second thing that I find very idiotic about this situation is that the WBA is still encouraging players to go abroad to play. You see, and look, I can't count anyone else's money for them. But this argument that, well, they get paid 10 times more if they uh, go abroad and play than they do here in the United States. How do you think that argument sounds to some homeless person here in the United States that's making it by on food stamps or government assistance or whatever means they find necessary? What about some of the retired veterans that are also being that are also out here? So as I'm saying personally, when you have a person that's making six figures, I can't have compassion because they're not making eight when so many people are only making five or less. With that, I see Bill here in the queue. Let me get Bill in here, and maybe we'll have some time for his comments. Mr. Carroll, how are you this evening?
Well, as you know, a couple of times a month, I have a job thing I have to do, and normally it ends about almost a few minutes. Usually, it's a few minutes before your show starts. This one went 38 minutes later than it's ever gone before. I've never seen it happen. We had normally people are rushing to get off this Zoom meeting. We have people badgering us with questions. And each time I thought it would end, somebody would be like, like we were like, well, thank you so much. And we'd be like, ready to click be like, oh, it was like a running gag. It was like something from a comedy show. And there's one guy in particular, God bless him, like every time he would unmute, everybody would go like, oh. So yes, I'm sorry. That's why I'm running late. I've never had it go this late before. There's a few times when it's gone a couple of minutes over time, never this long.
It sounds like a couple of clubhouse meetings that I've been in, but that's another story, different show. Uh, but I'm glad you came in because I was getting a little comfortable with the subject that I was talking about, even though it may have made. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Yes.
Okay. Even though, as I said before, I stated my opinion that it may have made it might make some people uncomfortable. And the subject that I was talking about was the release of Brittany Griner.
Yep. Yeah, everybody's talking about it.
Now, perhaps I have a different take on this because, as we've talked before, and everyone is talking about, oh, well, they had to go over there because, it provides them with so much money. Well, there are a lot of people over here that don't make six-figure incomes. And the fact that they can go over there and make an eight-figure income, I think makes very little difference to a person that's sitting down here in San Diego, homeless, in a tent. That's my first perspective. My second perspective is as a veteran, you have a serviceman that's been sitting over there for years.
Right. Yep. Sure.
And you give an athlete preference over a veteran. Wait a minute.
That's not quite what happened, but okay.
Well, wait a minute. Now hold it. I understand that's not, it's not that, cut and dry. I do understand. I do understand that, but I'm also wondering if this is not, even though, as I said, I'm an independent voter that votes mostly Democrat. I also think this is a ploy from the Democratic Party for them to use in the 2024 election if they try to get an old ass Joe Biden reelected.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to run again in 2024, but that's a whole other show. I'll be back not this Monday, but the Monday after, so we can delve into that and some of the people I think may be on the ballot in 2024. So this about that, as you know, the charges against the two of them are distinctly different, and the Russians view them as distinctly different. This woman has traveled in and out of Russia many times, probably with way more THC on her than this time, right? She had a
decade.
For decades, right? so clearly this wasn't even about what it's about, right? It's about something different. And in the other case, this is a person who's accused of espionage. Once again, probably political pawn kind of situation, but they view these two things as very different.
Okay, well, right? Wait a minute now, but hold it now. The guy that was released for Brittany Griner was considered a major terrorist. All
Oh,
of
I'm very familiar with Mr. Krause. I know who he is. I'm
so
not one
all,
of those people who's like discovering today who he is. No,
so
there's been
so
books
so
written
all
about
of
him.
so all of a sudden his philosophy is going to change. He's going back there after spending years in prison, a changed man, and preach the virtues of America. To,
No,
to,
no, obviously not. Um, and I don't think anybody believes that. I don't think that's what anybody anywhere believes. Victor Prout was part of this deal not because he's a changed man, but because it's a swap. And they were trying to get a 2-for-1. I don't know if you
yes,
sort of
yes,
okay, you know about
yes,
okay, so
yeah. We talked about that before, if you remember, on the other
right.
show.
So yeah, so they've been at this for a while, trying to get both of them out in exchange for him. And Putin and his people, or how you want to think of it. I mean, it probably wasn't Putin directly, but the people that he communicated regarding this
We
were
could
like,
say the
no,
people that Putin directs.
right, yes, the people he directs, the people who who serve at his pleasure is the term we often use in politics. Made it clear that no, you can have her or you can go home empty-handed. And when you're in a negotiation, you always ask for more than you think you're going to get anyway. Like that's any negotiation any good negotiator always says, give me the moon, the stars, the Milky Way galaxy, knowing that you'll settle for the moon, but you're asking for everything. And did we probably get, I don't know, hornswoggled? Did we probably get, run amok, led astray? Did they get the better of the deal? Yeah, I would say they got the better of the deal. I'm very excited and happy that Brittany Griner's coming home. This should never have happened. Once again, she was just a pawn in all of this. And the people who are, like focusing on the fact that she's lesbian or black or a celebrity or whatever are just missing what, like, the real heart of this. This was all is it After Dark?
It's close enough.
Dick measuring, sir.
Okay.
The real heart of this is dick measuring. And Putin wanted to show that his was bigger. Okay? It's that simple. He wanted to show that his was bigger. So he wanted to win, or whatever term you want to use, because he wanted to show, hey, mine's bigger. Right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to the very heart of it. Oh, there. Okay, now it's official. Now it's official.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Wait a minute. It's official. Mr. Scott is here, and it is after dark.
It's officially after dark, and Mr. Scott is here.
Good evening, Mr. Scott. How are you doing this evening?
Very good. Looks like you were heavy into some rap. I thought I heard some rap music going on. Hootie.
That's the official sound that we are cribbing after dark. So we are now labeled MA, mature audience.
Mature audiences only. Yes.
Okay, so I'll let you speak to this after Bill gets finished. We're talking about.
I was pretty much done. I mean, this isn't what it's about. All the things that people are talking about are not what it's about. If you know anything about Vladimir Putin, once again, a judo champion, people use the term former KGB operative, high ranking. You're never a former anything in the KGB. He may have changed positions, but you're KGB for life, baby.
Yeah.
You're KGB for life.
It's kind of like calling Thomas Sewell a former black man.
Right. Which might be the title of his autobiography. But the fact that the way his thinking and acting works, it still comes from one, being a competitive martial artist for decades, and being a person that clawed their way. And when I'm using the term clawed for a reason, to near the top of the KGB. You don't do that because you made the best brownies for the bake sale, James. Okay? So when he's losing, quote unquote, on one front, which is happening, right? He needs a win. He needed a win, and he got one. Yeah. It's that simple.
Mr. Scott, we were talking about Brittany Griner and her release. And I was giving my opinion as you so aptly point out many times, about what happened to what happened and my reaction to this release. And I said that number one, uh, this was the way for the Democrats to hold on to the LGBTQ plus vote in 2024. And I also pointed out that there is a gentleman that has been in Russia, a serviceman, a veteran, that is still sitting in jail, charged with espionage, while Brittany Griner only charged with possession of a small amount of THC, and we're talking about 10 years here. I understand that. But I had a problem with a veteran still being in jail while we have a celebrity that's getting out because of, and I think because of her connection to the four aforementioned community. So I mean, if if you don't want to answer, I mean,
Oh, I have no problem. No, I'd love to answer. Um, when you say that you're kind of perplexed by here's a veteran person been there for 4 years, how the hell you think he feels? How the hell you think he feels?
I'm the wrong person to ask. You remember, I've been in prison, so I, under any circumstances, if me and two guys are charged with the same thing, and I've been there, hell yeah. I mean, so I got a lot of empathy. I mean, but go ahead, Mr. Scott.
And I liked how his family, they asked them. Of course, they pissed, but they was able to keep their composure. That we're glad that the people are being free, but what about us? What we gonna do about our thing? And so the whole thing, this Putin thing. I mean, Putin. You see pictures of him, and he's sitting at a table. Okay, table's big as a football field. He's on one end, and one other guy down there. He's showing power. You never see him with no family. You never see him just doing something, going to a game or doing. You don't see no human stuff about him at all. He continues to put this thing out that he's this powerful thing. So of course you have to be glad, but it also shows the power of the group. And this is not my words, but there's a comedian that calls them the alphabet people. And this is what it shows, the power of the alphabet people. They can get their person out. If it was just and so the white power structure is really looking at this. They're like, hey, she gets out. What about this guy, a veteran? He's been there 4 years. So this is an interesting dynamic that I'm just viewing from the outside.
Now, another subject that I didn't send anyone, and I know, this is a really touchy subject. Mr. Scott, you'll probably agree with me on this, probably a lot more than Bill, because I'm going to talk about your favorite person. It's an event that's connected to your favorite person, yay. And I'm talking about the Kyrie incident. Now, as we know, Kyrie never said anything. He published a link with, let's say, the intentions of those that followed him would look at it. Now, he was punished, and I put that in quotes, by Nike and the Nets by being suspended for 8 games. Now, I'm sure Bill knows much better than I do how much money Kyrie has made to date. Okay. So once again, like it's kind of like I feel about Brittany Griner. When you got a guy that's making 7 or 8 figures a year, it's hard for me to have empathy when I'm making less than 6 figures a year. But that maybe that's just me. But anyhow, you work for Nike or the shoe company that the shoes that you wear are endorsed, are made by Nike, and you're endorsed by this company. So therefore, Nike sends you a paycheck. You don't manufacture the shoes. You don't put the shoes together. The only thing you do is put your name on the shoes and basically make some appearances, and you get a paycheck. You don't have the manufacturing rights. You have none of that. Okay? So, if you're working for a company that's owned by the people that you're talking about, and then they decide to fire your ass, how in the hell can you be surprised? And maybe, like I said, maybe it's just me, the old man out on the porch. Mr. Scott, you tell me.
Well, it's the way they did it. It's a roundabout kind of a way. It's not like he said anything about any Jewish people out of his mouth. He didn't sit down and say anything like that. He just posted something. And a lot of times people will post things to get reactions. Oh, wow, I saw this. I don't know what this is. What does other people think about this? Let's educate me. I'm a basketball player. I don't, this is what I do 24/7. I don't know a lot about all the. So what do other people think? I find this fascinating. So I'm going to post it just basically to see what other people think. And so he found out what some of the other people think about him posting something like, but I think it was innocuous. I don't think he meant anything and I think most of the people criticizing haven't even watched the thing. They don't even know why they're criticizing him and why, because somebody said that it's against the Jews, it's homophobic, Jewish phobic, it's all, to me, it's an all misguided type of a thing. And part of the whole Herschel Walker, all this foolishness that we live in now, is just a quagmire of a lot of foolishness that we have to sift through. But I think the punishment, I think it really showed what's out there, and all the stuff that they wanted him to do. Did he ever do that? All this demeaning stuff. They wanted him to take his hat off and get on his knees and denounce. Did he ever do any of that stuff? I know. I see he's playing now. So I guess they took some of his money, and one of the shoe people dropped him. And again, it seems like a lot of money to us, and it is a lot of money to us. But again, what he pays for his home insurance, what he pays for his cards, I mean, this thing is, so it does hurt for him to lose.
But hold on, Mr. Scott. Do you have a new car in your driveway?
Damn near.
Okay. Is it necessity or is it out of want? I mean, what I'm saying is, if you made $286 million a year, would you be driving what you're driving now, or would you be driving a Bentley?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. After I paid the agents, after I paid all the taxes in all the states that I play in, after I'd have to evaluate that. I have to. Is that something that I need? Is the Bentley better than the GMC I have?
How much money has Kyrie made thus far?
So Mr. King was saying he had trouble working up any sympathy for Brittany Griner because of how much money she makes. Just so you know, this year alone, even after whatever was taken away, he'll make more this season than she's made in her entire basketball career, and ever will make, in fact, in her entire basketball career. So just so you know, the total value of his contract is $136,490,600 guaranteed. This year alone, his base salary is $36,503,300 with incentives that he should, very makeable incentives of $431,250 plus ones that are more challenging to make. They could hit of an extra $718,750, right? So there's no way Brittany Griner will ever see in her entire career what he'll make this year, just so you know. If you're talking about who you're going to save your sympathy for. So here's the thing about Kyrie. And you said innocuous. Nothing he does is innocuous, sir. He's a pot stirrer. He likes to poke the hornet's nest. That's how he's always been, going back to his early years, even at Duke, even before Duke. This is what he likes. He likes getting that reaction. There's a Spanish word they call the fujita, right? A little fujita, that little poke, that little stick, right? Whether or not he endorses what's in there, it's a lot of the same old stuff that's been rehashed, going back to Father Conklin, going back to the learned protocols of the Elders of Zion, and a bunch of other stuff. A bunch of stuff about blood libel pops up in there. A bunch of stuff about, some stuff. Of course, the Rothschilds always make an appearance. The usual. It's the usual. They play all the hits. And there's some stuff about, who the true Jews are versus the Jewish people, right? They make all this stuff. I'm very familiar with the people who made this particular product. And if Kyrie didn't familiarize himself with it, that's really, he should have. He's an adult. We're not talking about a 17-year-old anymore. We're talking about a man who's in his, is he 30 now? Late 20s, at least, if not 30. So if he didn't know.
You're talking about a man that believes the earth is flat, Bill.
Right. But here's what I'm saying. Yeah, he's 30. He is. He's a 30-year-old man, sir. He's at a point in his life where I'm not going to say, oh, he didn't know. If he didn't,
but the people that he didn't put the movie out. He didn't put the movie out there. The people that put the movie out there, they're just still putting it out. Is giving them all kind of play. They're making more money off Shaq. He's got it in his movie theater. Come on. Let's look at the reality of this stuff.
I'm looking at the reality. The reality is he likes stirring stuff up. He's always been a stirrer. So I'm not going to buy that it was like, I didn't know. I mean, he knew something, and he knew it was going to be big when he did this. I promise you he knew that. He's not unintelligent. He might be weird, but he's not unintelligent, right? He knows that when he does these things, it's going to go, and he likes that. He likes chaos. He is an agent of chaos, Mr. Scott.
Well, but why not the vitriol to the people that put the movie out? Why not the vitriol to the distributors? Why not the vitriol to those?
But here's the good news, Mr. Scott. I have enough vitriol for everybody. I don't have to conserve it or ration it. They can all get some.
But they don't lose money. They make more money. He's the one that gets punished.
Well, he's also the one that didn't think. Well, he probably thought about what would happen. I think he didn't realize how that would blow back on him. Maybe he didn't realize that part. He should have. But the point I'm making is that, yes, he didn't make it. He didn't finance it. He didn't make any money off of this. But the Hebrew Israelites, right, who have rallied around him, I don't know if you ever dealt with them, debated them, been around them. They are a fascinating group of individuals, right?
To say the least.
Yes, that's to say the least. And it's a fascinating mix of the best parts. It's like you take parts of the Nation of Islam, parts of this, parts of that, parts of this, maybe a little bit of white supremacy stuff too, but you flip it and make it black. But it's all these weird little things kind of all thrown into a goulash of silly.
Jennings.
And then you garnish it, right? You garnish it with uplift. You garnish it with, this is going to free us, right? We're going to be free of all this. But they have no plan. I've debated them before a few times, but they have no real plan. You're going to stop using the white man's money. Fantastic. You're going to use what for money exactly? Crickets, right? So I love debating them because they've always thought about what they don't want to do, but they have no idea what they are going to do. But here's what it comes down to, really what it comes down to. Kyrie Irving likes, except for the part where it cost him money. He likes all the rest of it. He likes people yelling and screaming and upset. He likes that. He enjoys that, Mr. Scott. He's been doing this for a while. This isn't new to Kyrie. This is not Kyrie's first rodeo when it comes to controversy, in case you're wondering. He's got a bit of a track record. And guess what? It won't be his last, Mr. Scott. I've come by here to tell you, what time is it? It's 8:37 where I live on the 8th of December. Within 6 months, that means before June the 8th of 2023, he will have done something else. Mark my words. I don't know what. I don't know how, but Kyrie will do something.
Okay, well, let's let me get off my soapbox. Let's see. Right now, the score is 13 for the Raiders and 3 for the Rams. And
the Rams are done. Rams are done there.
And Baker Mayfield is starting. He was reading the playbook on the train. While he was there. So yeah, Baker Mayfield has started. And he did lead them down on his first drive. I believe he led them down to get their first 3 points.
Well, he got 9 lives. Gee.
Yeah. So, let's start with a little baseball here. Since you're here, Mr. Scott, I figured we talk a little bit about some of these guys, and I don't know. Maybe you feel a little sorry for Aaron Judge too. He only got $360 million from the Yankees for the next 9 years.
Just so you know, you could operate the entire WNBA for about 7 years off that, Mr. King.
Just so you know, I could probably operate the SPORTSKRIB for the next 1,000 years. But that's another. So, Mr. Scott, were you always sure the Judge was going to be a Yankee?
Pretty much. He kind of hemmed and hawed so much. And then, the baseball free agency, the one that I'm just totally, I don't know where, they must have Brinks trucks or they're making money, is your team in San Diego. How in the world? You already gave Machado. You gave Tejada, and now you're still out here getting money.
We're going to talk about that, But what did you? The Mets were out there with a lot. They had their little money train out there too.
Well, I guess the Giants did too. I think the Giants, because he's from the area, and so I thought that they might have been the front runners because I thought he had somewhat of a. I don't know. I won't call it attitude, but the fact that they didn't sign him earlier in the season, it's like it seems like they were at the table then, and they didn't do it. So then that's when he said, "Okay," and then he went on his tear with the 60 home runs, and so now I thought, well, maybe, okay, I showed you, but I guess that's where New York is New York. That's the biggest. That's the biggest thing in the world. You be a star there in New York, you're a star.
No qualms because he's 30 years old and you're signing a 9-year contract.
They're giving them all contracts like that. They just gave Verlander some 45 or some million for 2 years. He's already 40. He had Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, so. we're going to talk about him a little later too. Bill, what did you think about the Yankees breaking the bank for Judge?
Well, what else are we going to do? Let him walk, right? This is one of the least surprising sports stories in recent times. Now, if they had let him walk, that would have been the big story because essentially what you're reporting is dog bites man. If he'd been allowed to walk, that's man bites dog. This is not a surprising story. This is my shocked face. Of course. What are they going to do? Oh, yeah, he just set all the records. Oh, yes, we met with the Maris family. Oh, we've built a shrine to him in right field, but he's gone. He's out of here. See you later. See you in the funny papers, Aaron. Come on. What were the chances that was going to happen?
All right, well, since Mr. Scott opened to box up a little bit, I'm going to talk about the Mets. Now they gave Verlander a 2-year, $86 million deal.
Uh-huh.
Now, does that reek of desperation for a series of bust season for the Mets?
Do you have a younger brother or sister, Mr. King?
Uh, all of them are younger.
There you go. I'm an eldest child, right? So when you have a little brother or a little sister, at first they just wander around wide-eyed and do whatever you do. Then at some point they want to challenge you, right? They want to see who really, really is the cock of the walk. And the Mets have won World Series before, right? They've won championships. It's not like they haven't done anything, but they've never, at least in the New York market, ever been the cock of the walk. They'd have to win about 25 World Series back to back, you know what I mean, before they could really say, like, aha, I'm right here, right? So anytime they get a chance to try to catch a little bit of the shine, right? A little bit, they have to take it. They have to. I grew up a Mets fan, right? Because until they realigned the International League, the AAA franchise of the Mets was in my hometown, the Tidewater Tides, which are now associated with the Orioles. It just feels weird. But I got to see Doc Gooden. I got to see Darryl Strawberry. I got to see Mookie Wilson. I got to see a bunch of those guys make their way up, right, on their way to the Mets. So that's how it became the first professional sport event I ever saw was a Tides game. And my favorite player was a guy named Leroy Stanton, who actually didn't make it. Well, he briefly made it to the majors with the Mets, but most of his career was actually spent with the Houston Astros. But so that was the first time I ever saw a sporting event in my life was actually the Tidewater Tides when I was probably not even 2 years old. So trust me, I know what Mets fans go through, what they think, what it's like. I grew up a Mets fan. And the Mets, I mean, they're the little brother, man. I mean, there's no two ways around it. They're younger, their fan base is smaller. Think about all the music videos you've seen, because Mr. Scott loves, rap videos. Think how many times you've seen the Yankee fitted, right? Somebody wearing a Yankees cap. How many people have you seen in a video or a movie or a television show wearing a Mets cap? I'm not saying you never see it, but how often, right? The numbers don't, the math doesn't math, right? The numbers don't match. It's not quite the same. When someone sings New York, New York, right? And Frank Sinatra, do you think Frank Sinatra was thinking about the Mets? You know what I mean? When he was thinking about old New York, old New York.
Mr. Scott, what do you think?
Well,
these old guys got a chance to get a check too. Come on,
I think the thing with the Mets is I think they just have a stigma from when they first came in with Casey Stengel and they were losing 100 games. It just seemed like the Mets were, and then it didn't even go away when they started to win the World Series. They still didn't seem to catch up after that. I mean, they still, to me, seem to have that stigma of the losing Mets. And then it even rubbed in more when you bring in a 40-year-old Willie Mays who has to actually take himself out of a game because he just didn't have it anymore. So, one of the greatest players ever, but just played a year or two too long with the Mets. And I always use this analogy, my dad's ex-wife, my mom died, he married again. And she gave me a bunch of blowback over the books first books I put out and all of that. And she talking about my dad, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you didn't really know my dad. You knew my dad like people knew Willie Mays at the Mets. Okay, you didn't know the real dad. You didn't know. And so, but again, that's a lot of money for Verlander. But I tell you, I went to watch him pitch a game this year against the Twins. And he took the game into the 8th inning with a no-hitter. It was just boom, 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 boom. And they took him out for the 9th, so it wasn't a no-hitter. But, boy, I tell you, this year he was dominant. If they can get 2 more years like that, which I think is iffy, it's iffy at this age. It's probably, And it's a lot of money. I mean, I don't know that anybody's getting that amount of money in baseball. 46 a year?
Well, 43 and change.
Well, yeah, I mean, but
But
when
what's $3 million between Fritz at that point?
yeah,
Yeah.
like it's kind of to me like the Steelers paying Mike Tomlin. If not Mike Tomlin, who? You know, you give me a good replacement and we'll talk about it. Right now, as you said, last year it was boom, boom, boom. So some people are pessimists, some people are realists. We'll see how it goes.
But
Uh,
pitchers seem to be the most riskiest ones to me, especially pitchers his age. They just seem the most risky.
well, wait a minute now, Mr. Scott, because look what's happening to the Red Sox. We have another guy, Bill. How do you pronounce his last name?
You want DeGrom?
Huh?
Oh, you're not talking about DeGrom? Okay, I didn't know you were talking about.
Xavier. How do you?
Oh, Bogaerts. Xavier Bogaerts.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Bogaerts.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. You got Bogaerts that signed a big deal to come over here to the Padres. You were talking about the Padres.
yeah.
And they gave him what 200 plus me 260 million or whatever it was, 263 or something like that. Another enormous amount of money to come out here to play for the Padres, and he's a shortstop. Now, so is Tatis. That kid that shows so much promise that was suspended for using PEDs. I don't know if anybody's ever seen him play the outfield or not, but it seems like somewhere the Padres are going to have to fit him into this lineup too. But Mr. Scott, did you ever think that you'd see Bogaerts, one of the faces of the Red Sox, out here in a Padre uniform?
I still don't understand how the Padres can pay people all these big contracts. I mean, don't they have some kind of a cap or limit or
There
some
is
kind
no,
of thing?
there's no cap.
You
There's
can just pay
no hard,
anybody what you
there's no
want.
hard cap in baseball. They pay what's called a luxury tax. The Dodgers have been way over it for years, but there's no cap. It's just above a certain level, you pay a luxury tax. If you go to a higher level, you pay more in luxury.
Yeah, like the Lakers, for instance. That it applies to them too. But yeah, there is no salary cap per se. Like Bill says. But I mean, hey, maybe they called the Saints and found out the way to maneuver that money. It seems like the Saints don't have
Well, in
any
baseball,
problem.
you don't have to do all that since it's
Yeah,
guaranteed contract anyway.
Okay, well, why doesn't everybody do it? Just because they don't have the money to do it. They don't talk about
Or they don't
that
want to
here.
spend it. Some have it, but don't want to spend it.
Now we're talking about Korea. They say that they may sign him back. They thought he was going to go to the Phillies, but then they signed somebody, didn't they?
Yeah. We'll talk about him too. Trea Turner.
Yeah. I mean, these are big $250, $300 million long-term contracts where some of these guys are going to be 40 plus at the end of these contracts. I mean,
Trey, I think they're all 30-ish or at least 30.
Yeah.
Some of them, one got an 11-year contract, the other one got a 10-year contract. Right now, Judge is with the youngest. He only got a 9-year contract. He'll be 39. The rest of them will be 40, 41, 42. If they're from the Dominican, I mean, can you believe the person? That's another story. But anyway, go ahead.
But look at Miggy as an example in Detroit. I mean, he's been running on fumes for the last 2 years. I go to games, he'll hit the ball off the fence and barely get to first base. Barely. So, these long-term contracts, it's real perplexing to me. It's really, I mean, the money must be way better than we have any idea of. I mean, it's got to be.
Well, I mean, I have no concept of what it's like to make $1 million a year. So I can't, when you ask me to start talking about, anyway, Bill, what Trey Young has also moved. Uh, Trey Turner. I'm
Trea
sorry.
Turner.
Has also moved. Now he's in a new uniform. He has a long-term contract. He'll be 41 years old when his contract runs out.
Yeah. So, but a bargain, right? Only $300 million for 11 years. I mean, that really comes out to just 27,272,730 on average. Really a drop in the bucket when you think about it. So, I mean, and he's a mere 29 years old, so he'll only be 40 at the end of it. Really just a bargain, really, when you think about it. I really realized several things. One, I wasted my time trying to play football and whatever else. I should have spent all my time trying to learn to play baseball. That was clearly the way to go. I'm not very big, but I could have been a middle infielder. I just made all the wrong decisions.
But the money thing. Example, I come up at the beginning of the Minnesota Twins when they first came here from Washington. Okay, and they had two guys, Harmon Killebrew, Bob Allison. Okay, Harmon Killebrew was probably one of the best home run hitters in the American League during that time. And so they win the World Series. Or no, they go to the World Series, lose a classic World Series against the Dodgers. Oh, Mudcat Grant hit a home run through almost a perfect game. I mean, it just was an awesome series. The next year, Calvin Griffith, Harmon Killebrew hit 45 home runs one year. Calvin Griffith said, "I'm gonna cut your salary because you didn't hit 250. I'm gonna cut your salary," and he was only getting $100,000 then. And he tried to give him a cut, and Harmon sat out, and he had to just give him a $10,000 raise. So this money now, it's fathoming this and the length of time on these things. It's just really, I mean, could they end up in Bobby Bonilla situations again? I mean, are these things guaranteed? I mean, I don't.
Yeah, well, it's right. I mean, remember the strongest union in sports by far is the Major League Players Union. So yeah, it's all guaranteed money in baseball. That's why baseball is the best sport to be in for money, because the amount of money and it's all guaranteed. So yes, play baseball, young friends. If you have children, grandchildren, kids that like you and you like them, get them to play baseball, because that's the place to be, man. Wow.
Mr. Scott, do you realize that right now Justin Verlander is making more as a pitcher than the the whole team cost when it moved to Minnesota?
Yeah. I mean, those things really put perspective on the whole thing. Hey, all the Twins used to work. They used to sell clothes. One of them worked downtown selling suits. One of them worked. They used to bring a suit from him at the department store downtown. The salesman.
A lot of them were frontmen for used cars or new car businesses.
Greeters at places. Some of them would sell insurance, work for Anheuser-Busch, or almost all the St. Louis Cardinals at one point worked for Anheuser-Busch.
So the salaries have come a long, long ways, Mr. Scott. Okay.
That's why Marvin Miller should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Okay, guys. It seems like surprise, all of us were fooled last week because everybody was saying, well, Deion's not going to take this job because he has bigger fish to fry. Well, I guess he settled for whatever the hell it was that he caught. Maybe it was a good spring trout. Maybe it was, smallmouth bass. But whatever it was, he decided to keep it. Mr. Scott, what did you think about him taking over the head coaching job at Colorado?
Well, I think for him to get a bigger job was inevitable. I mean, but why Colorado? They're pretty down and out, downtrodden program. I mean, it's a major division, major league. But is he going to stay there? I mean, he doesn't have no if he brings his son to play quarterback, I mean, then he'll probably move there, try to go be a coach at a pro team where his son goes. I mean, I think Dion is looking to get the best thing for him. I mean, I don't fault him for it. Look at the history of the black college. I mean, who was a better coach than the coach at Grambling? I mean, who was ever a better coach? Who sent more players to the pro, and he never got a chance. I mean, he never got a chance to even go to the pros, step to pro. So, then there's several other coaches. There was the coach at Mississippi Valley. He was a great coach. There's several coaches out of HBCUs with wonderful, the greatest players ever came out of that. And so for Dion to move up, he probably would like to be an NFL head coach. So no, I don't begrudge him at all. I think he lifted that program up, and hopefully the next coach can kind of build on what he did. And the HBCUs are changing. They're not all black at these schools. I mean, they are changing. My brother played baseball at Alabama State, all black. We looked at the roster the other day, two blacks, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Latin players. So it's changed.
Yeah, I mean, some of that, unfortunately, is because there's fewer black kids playing the sport, which is,
yeah.
I guess we could do a whole show on that.
Yeah, that's very true.
But Bill, I mean, what do you think? He's getting his defensive coordinator is going to be a guy that was on Nick Saban's staff. He's getting a former head coach from Kent State to be
John Lewis, who is one of the bright young offensive minds in this country.
Yep. So
I've watched a lot of Kent State football.
So what do you think? I mean, he's bringing some guys up, that possibly would still be kind of hid back there, behind the famousness of the coaches in front. I mean, how many people know, more than two of Nick Saban's staff, and very few people know of the defensive coordinator's name that's coming. Most people don't recognize the name of the head coach from Kent State, and there's a possibility that he might be getting a running back also from the portal.
Well, he's going to get a lot of players from the portal.
Well, from Alabama, I'm talking about from Alabama in particular.
Oh, okay. Well, right. He's going to get players from Cal. He's going to get players from, Texas A&M. He's going to get players from lots of places. I promise you that. So it's a 5-year deal, worth up to $229.5 million, depending upon certain escalator clauses. So he's scheduled to get a $200,000 raise each year that he stays. The first year, it's $5.5 million. To put that in perspective, Carl Durrell, the coach that coached until he got fired earlier this season, made $3.6 million. So so think about this. He was donating money back, about a quarter of his salary back to Jackson State. And that deal was only a $1.2 million deal over 4 years. So he's gotten a significant upgrade. Now, if he leaves after one season, it's a $15 million buyout. It drops down to $10 million after the next season, $8 million after the third season, and only a mere $5 million in the final 2 years of his deal in terms of the buyout. So either he or his employer, if he does leave, has a decent amount of money to pay if he doesn't stay at least close to the end of this deal. And Colorado is not Texas A&M. They're not Texas. They're not USC. This is a significant amount of money for them. They're not used to paying coaches a lot of money to not coach, right? LSU doesn't care. They'd fire 14 coaches and pay them millions to sit at home and wouldn't blink an eye. This is not that. They need this to work, right? First of all, financially, they need this to work. They need him to bring butts to seats. They need him to help them get NIL deals done. They need him to sell merch. They need this to work. Not only win national championships, but they need to be interesting, competitive, and compelling. And he can probably manage that. So what my assessment is that the first place you're going to see Deion's impact, and you're seeing it already, is in recruiting. They're 4-star guys, and maybe even a 5-star, but they're going to get 4-star guys that wouldn't have considered Colorado a week ago. A week ago. They're getting guys that wouldn't have considered Colorado 1 week ago. Will that equal wins? Probably not right away. This was a 1-11 program. So if he wins 5 games next year, he'll be in contention for Conference Coach of the Year because people left Colorado for dead. A once proud program that gave us people like Byron Windsor White, and where when Bill McCartney was there, they had at least one season where they, I think, went undefeated, and a couple of the seasons where they were in the Orange Bowl, where they were contending for national championships, even if they didn't win them. So they've been at or near the very pinnacle before. The last time they were really, really competitive for a decent stretch was, of course, under Rick Neuheisel, right? Brought his guitar and all that good stuff, and it was fun and whatever. But also it was maybe a little too loose. And I know people who are around the program, and things happened, some things that, they happen, but they happen more at Colorado maybe than other places. And they had a consistent lack of institutional control, like is how the NCAA likes to put it. Say what you want about Deion, and people said a lot of things about him. Much of what they said is true. He doesn't want to lose ship, though, right? Say what you want about him. He doesn't want to lose ship. His whole no hats, no earrings, in your personal life, yes, but like on the practice field, in meetings, no hats, no earrings, all that good stuff. Take your hoodie off. You saw his initial press conference when he got there, and he let some of those guys know right off the top that some of you probably won't make it, right? He told them straight up, you're going to have to work harder than you ever worked before. You're going to get it done in the classroom, you're going to get it done in the practice field, and you're going to get it done on Saturdays. And it's going to be harder than it was here before. And you're going to be competing harder for your job because of the transfer portal. Like, he let them know that, yeah, I'm bringing, baggage with me, and my baggage is Louis. Remember that? The whole Louis Vuitton thing he worked in? But it was I don't know if you saw it, but his initial press conference was, well, obviously very Deion-ish.
Yeah, it was showed on most stations because, like I said, most people didn't think that he was going to go there.
Well, some people did.
This is something I don't know. Is Deion Reverend?
No,
he's black.
No. I hadn't even heard that one. Is Snoop Dogg Reverend?
I thought I've heard different things. Him, Michael Irvin being a reverend, or
No, they are deacons in T.D. Jake's mega whatever they call it.
Okay.
For those who are wondering, the views of Bud Anthony Scott do not reflect the views of the sports.
Did you get a glass of lemonade or something while we were something happened there between Reverend and TDJ. I know I wear glasses, but maybe it was just me. But anyway,
you could have said "Little Baby." You could have said ASAP Rocky. You could have said, and you wouldn't have gotten that strong a reaction.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
That was my favorite moment of the show. I don't think we can top that.
I will see if we can make it. Do you know anybody that can make a mime, Bill? A meme, whatever they call it. I think we should make that. I think we should make that a meme. we got after dark. We should have Anthony Scott's seal of approval.
I'm getting the feeling that the Right Reverend Dr. Jakes might not have the Anthony Scott seal of approval.
Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. So, Bill, I'm going to ask you this more to you than Mr. Scott. But Mr. Scott might be a little up on this, but the Notre Dame tight end,
Michael
Mr.
Meyer.
Michael Meyer. uh, should we just call him? Is it Halloween or what's the? Is Michael
Yeah,
Meyer?
obviously people always think about Halloween. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, he's saying that he's going to declare himself for the draft.
Yeah. Yep. To the surprise of no one. Yes.
Is he going to be a first round draft pick? I know there's a couple of teams.
He has a good
tight end.
chance. He has a very good chance. I mean, I think he's right on the board. To me, right on the borderline. To me, he's a borderline guy. Here's what I will say. If you liked all the other Notre Dame tight ends, you'll like him too. Did you like John Carlson? Did you like Kyle Kimmett? Did you like Brent Koyak? Did you like it's a long list. But if you liked all the others, you'll like this one too. He's a lot like all of them.
Is that a commercial? That sounds familiar. If you like that one, you'll like him too. I don't know.
Probably. It certainly could be.
Another guy I want to talk about is, and you had said last week that you felt that Caleb Williams was a shoo-in. But then, of course, we all said last week that USC would be number 4. And Tulane, no, who was it that beat them?
No, you want Utah?
Yeah, and Utah ended up beating them for the second time
They
in
did.
the same season.
Which, and much more soundly the second time.
Much more, yeah. The first time was, but
anyway, a 1-point loss on the last play of the game, yeah.
So, kind of a two parts here. Do you think that? Are you just as confident as you were last week about Caleb winning the Heisman? Even though I don't understand how the Georgia quarterback got on there, but I guess it's because he, his team is
because they're going to win the national championship. That's
yeah.
There are more deserving players than Stetson Bennett right there, but he's not awful.
No, I'm not saying that he's awful, but if he didn't play for Georgia, I don't think he would be there. But
no. If he was the quarterback at Middle Tennessee State, I promise you, he would not be on the Heisman ballot.
So, what are you still as confident for Caleb Williams winning the Heisman? And number 2, and I know this has been talked about. I'm sure during some time. Mr. Scott or a group that he was in. I know groups that I've been in, and Bill, I'm sure that the groups that you've been in too. When you start talking about we're talking. Let me get back on my question here. Okay. When we're talking about Caleb Williams or any other quarterback in the Heisman Trophy race. Do you think that it would be better if we put the Heisman Trophy after the national championship? I mean, suppose in the case of, say, you got Caleb Williams winning the Heisman here, does that put extra pressure on the other 3 guys that are nominated? Or, now that the Heisman is gone, is that one less obstacle for them? What do you think, Bill?
Well, it depends on how much you enjoy recency bias, right? is already a huge factor in Heisman voting. Now, because some people turn their ballots in early, that's one reason I'm still fairly confident that Caleb Williams wins. A lot of people sent their ballots in a week or sometimes more than a week, but at least a week early before they had to turn it in, right? So that's part of it. Here's what I will say. Look at his other competitors. Okay, Max Duggan has a good chance, and he should, in my mind, be the second guy. He should be number 2. But C.J. Stroud really stumbled down the stretch. And even in the game that versus Utah, Caleb Williams, even hobbled, played better, frankly, than C.J. Stroud did. So C.J. Stroud is unlikely to overtake him. Stetson Bennett is, it's not like the, chimp driving a limo at the old famous Hollywood Henderson quote about Terry Bradshaw and the Steelers. It's not that. It's not a chimp driving a limo, but it's clear that he's not the most important player on the team, right? It's an incredibly loaded team, and he does his job. He's a good, solid football player. But that team is about their running game and their defense, and Stetson Bennett makes some pretty good throws when he's asked to. He's a really solid, really good football player, but he's not the kind of guy that should ever win the Heisman. So who's the most spectacular, most interesting, most dynamic, fun to watch of the guys involved in this, in the Final Four, the ones that are going to be invited to New York? It's still clearly Caleb Williams. If he loses it, I don't think he does, but if he loses it, it's probably to Max Duggan, right? Because just the incredibly heroic performance he had, even in a loss to Kansas State, but they lost it in overtime, on sort of somewhat fluky, frankly, a bad decision by and I like Spike Dykes a lot. The guy won, Coach of the Year, but that play call to take the ball out of Duggan's hands in that situation and to run just a basic dive play right into the teeth of the defense, we're not a fan of that play call. I still think they have a chance to win that game in overtime if it's a read option and Duggan gets a chance to pull it.
Mr. Scott, what do you think? Do you think that we should have the Heisman Trophy winner after the championship game?
I think that's kind of a hard call because maybe the best players aren't going to be in the game. I mean, obviously, you would think that they would be in the game since it's the top 4 teams, but there could be someone outside of the 4 that that would be considered for the Heisman, depending on the year they had, depending on how those. If they win the game or not, they get the Heisman. I mean, that's
that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, should the trophy be presented after the national championship game? That doesn't mean that the nominee couldn't come from a team that's not even in the national championship. But are you taking the incentive away from the guys that are going to that game, maybe going into it undefeated, if you give another guy the Heisman, and the only thing that they can win is a team championship, a national championship? They can't win that individual trophy. So I'm not saying that the individual has to be the winner of the national championship team. I'm just saying that shouldn't we heap all these praises on whoever that Heisman Trophy?
Yeah, but in your scenario, are you saying then that the voting would actually take place before the national championship game?
Well, we don't vote on the national championship until the game is played, do we?
Well, I don't know when they take the Heisman voting. I don't know that they wait till they take
the Heisman Trophy ceremony. I think is next Monday. Bill, is it next Monday or the Monday after? Is Bill?
Yeah, sorry. Oh, the voting has already concluded. The voting has been tabulated. Yeah. The ceremony won't happen until Actually, the ceremony might be this weekend. Hold on, let me just double that.
It should be Monday. Is it Monday or is it Monday?
The Heisman ceremony itself will take place on the. God, what day is it? Hold on. It's coming up really soon. Is it Monday? Is it Sunday? It might be Sunday. Might be
No,
Sunday.
it wouldn't be Sunday because
No,
it
no,
either
you're right.
has it would have to be either. Let's see, either.
No, it's the 10th. So it's 2 days. Yes, it is the 10th. Okay, so it's Saturday. It's
Yeah,
Saturday night, 8 Eastern.
yeah,
Yeah, so the voting ended, like a week ago or something. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, we still we've had most division and conference championships settled already.
Oh, the only thing that hasn't happened outside of bowl games and the part of the college football playoffs is Army Navy, which also takes place this coming Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, suppose you want suppose the quarterback at Navy is the winner. I mean, yeah, I'm just asking. I mean, what do
Yeah.
you think, Mr. Scott? I mean, like I'm saying, Heisman Trophy winner is decided uh, Monday, and we have another whole month before the championships are settled.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. I mean, it kind of keeps, they seem to like to drag interest out. And I mean, the national championship game is over. There's that hoopla. And then there's still this next step about who's going to get the Heisman. And that kind of moves into the pro kind of thing, the draft and those things that come next. So I like that. I think it's keeps interest in the game and, wait till the national championship is over and then have that award ceremony.
And not only that, I think it might also be financially more feasible, and that's one thing that college football wants, if nothing else. But Mr. Scott, surprise, surprise again. We all thought that we were going to have a 18, at least an 8-team college football playoff by 2024. Now it seems like everybody's agreeing to disagree, and they're saying that there won't be any expansion until into uh, a 8-team or 12-team format for at least the next 4 years. What do you think about that, Mr. Scott?
Uh, college football, I almost moves too quick for me to get. I mean, with these changing divisions, this expanding Big Tens, where you now, I think UCLA or somebody like that's coming into the Big Ten.
USC and UCLA. Yep.
Both of them. Yeah. So, I mean, this is really kind of, it's getting kind of pretty convoluted to me. And this 4-team thing, I guess I'll have to see how it goes to see what I think of it. I mean, they don't do things long enough to really see what you think of it. And they've already got changes set up. Um, so no, I don't have a lot of comment on that. I just have to see how this one goes. And I don't like this expanding Big Ten. I mean, the Gophers, they don't even play Ohio State. They don't play Michigan. They don't play all the teams. They just play Wisconsin, Iowa, Purdue. I mean, I don't want to see them all the time. I want to see Ohio State. I want to see Michigan. So they're going after the buck. They're not really. That's their goal.
But see, Bill, I'm kind of like Mr. Spock on this. This is illogical. It doesn't make sense to me when you're expanding all the conferences. You're trying to find a place for these teams, but yet and still you do not expand the college championship format. If you got more teams and less divisions, it would seem that you would want to expand your base. This is something that makes no sense to me financially, Bill.
Well, I think that they will get to the 12 team playoff, and it'll happen sooner than projected. I think there's back channels being used. There's only really one conference that's the holdout that's sort of gumming up the works. And I think once they get that one conference to come to heal, it'll go through. It may take a year, it may take 2, but I don't think it'll take the full length of what you've heard.
Okay. And Bill, the final 4 named, and let's preview the games. Number 1, Georgia at number 4, Ohio State. Not sure what these games are going to be played, but number 1 against number 4. Bill, will it take divine intervention for Ohio State to make it to the title game?
Here's what it would take. We've seen what Ohio State's primary weakness is. Their secondary is not good, and they didn't generate enough pressure to make a, talented but relatively inexperienced and relatively inconsistent quarterback. They weren't able to force him into enough mistakes to not get eventually sort of dog walked towards the end by Michigan. And Georgia is better at everything than Michigan is. So what they have to do, 1, is really run the football much better than they have at any point this season. 2, they have to generate pass rush, consistent, constant pressure when they are able to force Georgia to throw the ball. And number 1, they got to force Georgia to throw the football. If Georgia's able to just run the ball down their throats, I mean, you can enjoy whatever it is you get for finishing second. That's you have to do that. You have to stop the run. If it means sitting 10 in the box, then you got to do it. You got to stop the run. If Georgia beats you, they have to beat you on the arm of Heisman Trophy finalist Stetson Bennett. And I like Stetson Bennett more than most. That being said, Stetson Bennett is very much like a guy like, Tate. What was his name like Tate Forcier, or when he was at Michigan, or like scrappy, a little fighter, a little feisty guy. But I mean, he wasn't supposed to be the starting quarterback at Georgia, right? It's like Major Applewhite. It's like there's a long list of guys like that. These guys who were like walk-ons and all this other stuff. I mean, he's not even quite as talented as a guy like Baker Mayfield. But he does have a lot of leadership qualities. He's tough attack. He's also like 24 and a half years old, almost. So, I mean, he's been around a long time. And he fits what they need. He's a game manager who can occasionally make a tough throw when you need it. But the running game is everything. Ohio State needs to run the game better than they have at any point this season. They have to stop the run better than they have at any point this season. If they could turn into a throwing contest, now they've got a chance, right? Maybe turn into a shootout. Now they got a chance. If it's about pushing the other team's line around, that's not a fight they can win, James.
No. If they turn it into a throwing contest, that'll make it very much of an even game for Ohio State, because Ohio State, I think, has the edge.
Well, I mean, look at their receivers.
That's what I'm saying. If it comes down to who can throw the ball the furthest to get the ball in the end zone, then Ohio State certainly has a chance.
They have a chance.
The University of Michigan and number 3 TCU are both undefeated.
Yep.
They'll be meeting. So
not anymore, because TCU lost in their championship game to the Kansas State.
Yeah,
on the last play of the game in overtime.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, who is TCU the one to break Michigan's O?
They could. Here's the thing,
Mr. Scott. Then I'll get to you.
Oh, Mr. Scott. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I didn't see a lot of. I don't know how Michigan in a way is still rated this high, but
well, they're the only 2 undefeated teams left.
They're undefeated. I understand. Yeah. I get that.
Them in Georgia, and everybody else has at least one loss.
There's at least one. I like the Texas team better. I mean, that's my board. I mean, I like Georgia and Texas.
Okay.
All right. Bill, is there going to be an upset here?
Well, if there's going to be an upset in one of the playoff games, this is the one where it would happen. Texas Christian does not have a great defense. A Kansas State offense that is extremely predictable put up a bunch of points on it. So Admittedly, you don't quite have a Deuce Vaughn anywhere on Michigan's roster, though I do like Blake Corum. He's hurt. There are other running backs, Donovan Smith and the Donovan. What's the other one's name? Donovan Jones and the other one. I can't remember the other one's name. Are both really good, but they're not Deuce Vaughn. They're not that dynamic. Their quarterback is certainly, one that, once again, I mean, he's a talented kid, but he's newish, right? He makes the occasional mistake. So that gives you a chance, right? As talented as he is, he makes some mistakes. He's an athletic guy. He can run. He has a strong arm. But there's a lot he hasn't seen yet. And if you can get a couple of turnovers, you can hang around. TCU can score on anybody, right? That was the best defensive game plan because, this is the second time they played Kansas State. And they beat Kansas State pretty, not blowout, but they handled them pretty good the first time. And clearly Kansas State, Chris Kleiman has a great staff. They had a much better plan for the second game. They did a lot of work to try to take Quentin Johnston away. They made them, a little more – they made them beat you with their left hand, right? Exactly. Take away what they do best. So can you do that? Can you take away Quentin Johnston, who is one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in the country? That's the first thing. 2, can you keep Max Duggan in the pocket, right? Because he's terrific on the move. He's not a freakish athlete, but he knows how to find yardage, and he runs pretty fearlessly. He's a tough guy. So he's the best quarterback they've had at TCU since Andy Dalton, and he's actually fairly similar to Andy Dalton in a lot of ways. I think Dalton might have been slightly stronger armed, but Duggan has a good touch on his deep ball, and I think Duggan might be a little tougher runner. Maybe not as probably around the same speed as Dalton, but tougher. Like he gets tough yards. He puts his head down and sometimes going to run through people in a way that maybe quarterbacks shouldn't, but he does it.
We've seen those quarterbacks come to the NFL. So far, they're doing pretty good, but we'll see. Bill, the Clowns quarterback Deshaun Watson looks more like $2.30 instead of $230 million. And when reporters asked him about his rust, he said, "Well, when it clicks, it clicks." I thought it was a little flippant, but I'm down on the Clowns anyway. But Bill, what did you think about Deshaun's performance and his remarks afterwards?
I thought that's what a person would look like if they hadn't played football in a year and a half. I mean, I'm not saying he's entirely forgotten how to play, but that's a long time. That's a really long time to go without playing football. He's had a handful of practices, like once the first initial part of his suspension ended, but that's practice isn't the game, right? I mean, I think we all know there's a difference between guys trying to help you get ready for a game and guys trying to knock you out of a game. Those are two very different experiences, James. So, and you can't tell me that he didn't feel pressure, right? There's the contract. There's the controversy. I promise you, he had some butterflies, as they say. It wasn't just another game for a bunch of reasons for Deshaun Watson. So I predicted that's what he would look like. I would have been very surprised if he didn't look like that, quite frankly.
Mr. Scott, did you get a chance to see the Browns quarterback?
I did.
Came back? What did you think?
I did see some of it. Didn't he get hurt? I was watching one play. I thought that he had got knocked down or knocked out or something, but then I saw he came back. So, but yeah, he looked rusty. No question about it. There were protests. The women were there apparently. I don't know if they were in the stadium or not, or if they were outside protesting, and more women apparently had come out, another women or two. These women, there's like an endless stream of them. They're even coming out against Cosby now again. I mean, there's a whole endless stream of these women that just continue to come out. But I mean, I think the talent is definitely still there. And I don't think they're in position to make the playoffs this year. Maybe they are. Doesn't look like they really are in position to make the playoffs. So this is kind of get the rust off type of thing for him. And then how do you really treat him? You don't want him to get another injury or be out again, or you got so much money invested in him. So they're just kind of in a bad spot. And I liked their team if they had him at the beginning of the year, but if the dog hadn't stopped the doo doo, he'd have caught the rabbit. So I mean, so I get it. So I, they're stuck with him, and I think it's one of those wait till next year type of a thing.
Uh, Bill skips number 11 from heaven. The Cowboys, Micah Parsons, may get all the publicity, but do you think that perhaps it's the 49ers, number 97, Nick Bosa, that might end up with the Defensive Player of the Year award?
I think they're both in the running. I think there's a few other players that deserve serious consideration. It's an interesting year because you're seeing the usual suspects, but also some players that maybe you're a little less used to seeing. I think that there should be at least some consideration for. Now he's gotten hurt, but C.J. Gardner-Johnson was having a fantastic year this year, and then now he's gotten hurt. He was a big part of why Philadelphia's defense is so good. It was a very good defense before, and when they added him, because he can play outside corner, he can play slot, he can play safety, he can play both safety spots if you really need him to. He's a good tackler. He has really good ball skills and instincts. He can cover. I mean, he gives you so much flexibility in what you can do as a secondary. I don't think he's going to miss too much time. He's going to miss a couple games. So we'll see if that sort of hamstrings both what they do in the back end of their defense and his chances to win defensive MVP or player of the year, I guess is what they actually call it. But guys that are in consideration, yes. I mean, some people say just hand it to Micah Parsons, and I guess. But, I mean, he's really good. What do you call it? I mean, he does a little bit of everything for them. And, he's a off-the-charts athlete, right? We talked about that. What an absolute freak he is. And it's easy just to sort of say, well, let's give it to him. But, I mean, I think Bosa, he just won the Player of the Week award, and he's certainly a real contender. But I don't think it's that cut and dried yet. I'm not ready to just hand it either one of them yet. I think there's other players who should be and are in contention.
What do you think there, Mr. Scott? Is it going to be Micah Parsons who gets all the shine? Like you said, Bill just pointed out, Nick Bosa was Defensive Player of the Week, but if you listen to all the sports programs, it's all about the Cowboys. What about you, Mr. Scott? Is it Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa, or somebody else?
Boy, I don't know who the somebody else would be on the defense, and I think the Parsons, it goes along with how the Cowboys do. And right now, the Cowboys seem to be, they seem to be clicking. You didn't like the clicking, it was said before, but so I'd have to lean towards Parsons. I'm not sure the 49ers, the quarterback's hurt, they're out. So I think that kind of goes into that too. If your team's successful, that can help you. And right now, the Cowboys look like they're on the real upswing. In spite of the Jerry Jones controversy that still seems to linger with him, Stephen A. Smith, and who's never been a favorite of mine. I don't know. Maybe that's yours, James. Maybe he's one of your favorites, so maybe I shouldn't say. But he's never been a favorite of mine. But no, I'd say Parsons.
You see all this stealing stuff around me? I mean, it's damn near a shrine, Mr. Scott. I mean,
Before we
but
forget, I just want to mention really quickly, Matthew Judon's having an amazing year. Max Crosby, who's playing right now, is having a fantastic year. And though he doesn't have all the numbers that because he plays defensive tackle, but Jeffrey Simmons is having if you just want to see a
But
master class in
but
interior defensive line play, watch the Tennessee Titans Jeffrey Simmons.
huh? We'll see if that's the way it works out. And as for clicking, Mr. Scott, my knees click every morning, but I ain't going out and try to run no damn marathon. So I don't know about that clicking situation there. A lot of things click, but that don't mean that they work right. Uh,
With that in mind,
it,
how is the game going? What is it? Is there any update?
right now, let's see. Right now, there's a commercial on, but as soon as the commercial gets off, I'll
It's
let you
still
know.
13-3.
Okay.
Oh,
Mr. Scott, Von Miller has had season-ending surgery. How much of an impact do you think that this is going to have on the Bills' chances of making it to the Super Bowl?
boy, I think when you start getting into this is the crunch time. These are the championship rounds, basically in football, and you lose a cog like that. I've seen the Bills have a few hiccups and missteps here, where I thought that was going to be my team for the AFC, but I think the league itself is pretty wide open. I mean, I think that this is one of the years that anything can happen, but I think that's a big loss for the Bills. I mean, I don't know how you replace, someone like that at this stage of the game. And so, I, yeah, I think the Super Bowl, boy, I can't say that I'd anoint Buffalo to Super Bowl at this point. I think there's a lot of shoes to drop.
Okay. Bill, have the Jaguars stunted the growth of first-round pick Trevor Walker by the way that they've been misusing his talents this season?
I mean, the short answer is no. Uh, Doug Peterson has actually really helped him. He's playing freer, faster. He's seeing things more clearly this year. I'm not sure what. No, he's playing better than he's ever played in his career. Now it's a short career, but I mean, quite the opposite. You could see the effect that Coach Peterson's had on him, and
It's now 16-3, Mr. Scott.
the field goal was picked a couple minutes ago. But no, he's playing better than he's ever played before. You can tell the game's starting to slow down for him. He's seeing things he didn't see before. He's more accurate. He's making better and quicker decisions. You can see that he's clearly on the upswing, and he'll be even better next year.
Okay. Who do you think has made the most progress, Bill? Trevor Walker or Hutchinson? I mean, Trevon Walker, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Trevon Walker. Well, I mean, Hutchinson was more developed anyway. So, I mean, it's not really a fair comparison. One guy is still not really very polished as a player. He's just super, super athletic. Trevon Walker is still a guy that, what was the line about the blind dog in the meat house? That's still who he is. That's a very athletic blind dog in that meat house, and he sometimes finds the meat. But when you look at him compared to someone like Aiden Hutchinson, who is such a technician, he's like a less athletic, less explosive Bosa brother, right? He has a lot of the same stuff they have, but he doesn't have that first step. That's where they've got him. He lacks first step explosion, but he's got really great use of leverage and hand usage, and he knows how to set up his moves. And Trayvon Walker doesn't have any of that. He's just a pure athlete. And if he ever becomes more than sort of a 5.5 to 7 sack guy, frankly, I'd be a little bit surprised because he's so far behind.
Mr. Scott, I want to talk about your Vikings here. Because we know that you're such a pro analytic guy. And the Vikings are actually the first NFL team to have a GM with actual analytics staffing experience. Now, Mr. Mensa made 3 trades, starting with his trading down in round 1, which netted the Lions wide receiver Jameson Williams, who will probably start Sunday against the Vikings. Then he moved down again and he let the Packers acquire Christian Watson, who's caught 8 touchdowns in his last 4 games. Then lastly, he traded for the tight end TJ Hawkinson from the Lions for 2 picks in 2023 and 1 pick in 2024. How do you grade Mr. Mensa and his trade picks thus far and the progress of your Vikings, who are still, 9-2 now?
10-2, isn't it?
Is it 10-2? I know they've only lost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. In regards to a couple of things, in regards to their record, 10-2, it's like I've said all along. I mean, if they were a heavyweight fighter, they're 10-2, no knockouts, 2 losses by devastating knockout, nothing but decisions, and so that just doesn't inspire confidence. But I do like that trade for the tight end Hawkinson. I mean, I have no idea how that could be pulled off at this time of the season in your own division. So I mean,
Last day of the trade.
I
Last
think
day.
yeah, I think that was a genius. Now the other ones where you're helping teams in your division, and then you end up with this defensive back, Mr. Sign, who's injured right away, and he's out for the year. So it's pretty hard to tell exactly how that number 1 pick is going to be. But overall, the Vikings, just winning by the skin of your teeth, I think overall it's going to end badly. It usually does. They have a shaky kicker. I mean, he misses extra points. He misses. And so that's is a terrible bane when you're a team that plays in close games. But as far as the first year GM, I think it's kind of, the analytics approach. I think the results we've seen have been so far so good. I mean, they've already got the division wrapped up. And so there's a playoff berth. So I don't know what more you could ask for. But I think the real star of this thing is the coach. I think the offensive coach, I think he's really, I've seen Cousins stand in the pocket and do a lot of things I haven't seen him do over the years. So this is a big game though with the Lions coming up. Lions are playing good. I actually think the Lions are going to win this game. I think these teams, the Lions, Packers, have outside shots to get to. I mean, it's shots in the dark, but I mean they do have outside shots, and they're playing each other a lot. Vikings have to play the Bears. They have to play Green Bay again. Playing Detroit this week. So overall, I like Mensa. I think he's come in and he's done a good job. I think the players are playing for him. I think it's the coach, the whole different atmosphere from Zimmer the last couple of years where it was so negative. So yeah, I think he's done a good job.
You just made Demetrius's night, don't you?
Well, yeah, I do have to say.
I mean, if there was anything that he probably wanted to hear tonight, it was you. um,
I'm afraid. I am afraid that they're going to win this game. I really am. They can score. The Vikings defense has been very suspect. This 3-4 that they're playing with Donatelli. Boy, it's a bend don't break type of a thing, and so it should be a good game. And then when you have things wrapped up, how do you play from there? Do you try to save people? So the Vikings are in a good spot, and the GM has put them
there. Bill, the Titans coach Mike Vrabel recently said that he could only coach the players that he was given. Do you think his remarks contributed to the firing of GM John Robinson? And do you think that now that Robinson that has been fired, do you think that it puts more pressure on Vrabel to make sure that the Titans advance past the first round of the playoffs?
Well, I mean, I don't see these things as connected, but it's clear that there was a bit of a power struggle. Okay, I'll use the last sort of.
How can there be a power struggle and they not be connected?
That's what I'm about to say.
Okay.
I don't think there's a connection between what they win or don't win, but there was a power struggle, just like when this happened not that long ago with the Dolphins, when Chris Greer, the GM, and Brian Flores didn't see eye to eye on a few things, but particularly on the quarterback situation, and it caused a power struggle. In this case, the GM wins and the coach is fired, despite the fact that the team had a winning record. Once again, we have a team with a winning record. In fact, a team that is going to win their entire division, unless something truly bizarre happens. So it's an interesting time to move on from your GM. So it shows that ownership backed the coach. All right? I mean, that's what it shows. When there's a power struggle between the coach and the GM and the coach survives, it lets you know that the next GM is going to have to be somebody that the coach really likes. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic in terms of that. Now, whether or not that means they win another playoff game or more playoff games, I mean, let's not forget that this is a team that has made its way to the AFC Championship game, 2 out of the last 4 years? So I don't know how much better you can do with the Chiefs still around and the Bengals are still in contention. I mean, the AFC is clearly the tougher of the two overall. You have obviously the most competitive division in football being the NFC East. But the rest of the NFC is, right? The NFC West, the 49ers look okay. Arizona is really just about to run aground on the rocks. The Rams obviously falling apart before our very eyes. The Vikings are very, very good, but nobody else in the Central is very, very good. The South isn't great. I mean, we're going to have a team that's probably going to be right around 500, win the South. So the AFC has a lot more good teams in it as a whole than does the NFC. The NFC has the East as their standard bearer, and that East is everybody's good. Everybody has at least 7 wins in the East. I mean, anybody in the East would run away with the South, right? Anybody. Like, if you drop the Commanders in the East, they're running away with the South. Crazy as that sounds. So the Titans have it's a hard way to go, but I think they win at least one playoff game, which is doing a lot on the AFC side.
Okay. Mr. Scott, I was looking at Football Focus, and I think that there should be mandatory drug testing for the entire staff. Pro Football Focus ranks Andy Dalton as number 6 in the top 10, while ranking Lions quarterback Jared Goff as low as number 28. Goff says he's playing the best football in his career, You're even, thinking about picking the Lions to beat your Vikings, Mr. Scott. Have the Lions and Jared Goff become the Don Rickles of the NFL this year? They just get no respect.
Sure seems like it.
I mean, I can bring back some of your clips from the first of the year if you like.
Well, Goff has turned this thing around. The coach has turned the thing around. They've won 3, 4 in a row. They're scoring a lot of points. They're a tough team right now. And I think that, Andy Dalton, we've seen his act. I mean, everybody's seen Andy Dalton's act before. I mean, Cincinnati gave him everything that he ever needed and couldn't do anything there. So no, I don't. It's just he's a stopgap guy. He's the kind of guy you play in emergency because you don't have nobody else. So Goff has still maintained his starting. It was kind of shaky at first. They didn't look that good at the beginning of the year, but they've come around, and I think he's. They got a few weapons there to go along with it, and they're a tough. They're a tough team, and these teams really they have an outside shot at making the playoffs. As Bill said, some of these teams in the NFC just they have these mediocre records, and there's nothing that says that still the Packers got a long way to go. But if the Lions win this week, there's a chance they could break into the playoff.
Bill, the Eagles stood pat on wide receiver despite the availability of OBJ. Jerry Jones, he kind of visited the Waffle House when he started talking about OJ after the visit. Bill, does OBJ get a job or a multi-year deal this season?
Here's the two things that will come down to. It has to be a team that has cap room, that is a legitimate contender, and a place where they actually still need a receiver. So there's a short list of teams that really fit the bill. The Cowboys do not have a lot of cap space. They have to start moving some stuff around, frankly, to make room for him because they don't have much cap space. The Eagles, similar deal. I mean, I'm just thinking of all the teams. I mean, he'd be really a wide receiver 3 for them, right? I mean, maybe he moves Devontae Adams to 3 and he becomes the wide receiver 2. But Arthur Brown Jr. is their best receiver, and he's one of the best receivers in football. Let's see. I mean, could he go to Tampa Bay? I mean, theoretically, Tampa Bay is a contender. Their cap situation is not ideal either. Unless he's willing to take, like I said, a bit of a pay cut. That'd be a tough way to go. Here's who makes sense, actually. The aforementioned Tennessee Titans. They have the cap space. They are a contender. They need a receiver. That's a place that makes more sense than most of the places people are mentioning. People who keep mentioning some of the teams they're mentioning either don't understand how the cap works, right? Because maybe that's it. Maybe they just don't understand how the cap works. The problem is not the salary even. The problem is the signing bonus. Why, you say? I'll explain. Because you can do all kinds of funny things with salary. But the signing bonus goes in a lockbox. It's an escrow, right? It has boom. At the moment of signing, it goes there, and you can't do anything with it that league year. You have to wait a league year before you can start doing funny things with that money. Moving around, converting it to signing, to workout bonus, to, salary, all that funny stuff. You can't do that yet, right? You can't do that till that's sat in that box until the next league year, which is not until springtime. So that team has to have at least enough cap space. It means they have to restructure somebody's deal if they have little to no cap room left. And most of the contenders people keep mentioning are teams with little to no cap room left. So the other team I can really think of, the Chargers are kind of sort of a contender, and they may have the cap room. I'd have to check. But most of the teams people are mentioning are teams that just don't have much cap room, so I don't know how that's supposed to work.
Oh, hey.
Well, let me ask Bill a question. Why did Philly get rid of Rieger? Wasn't he a number 1 receiver pick out of Alabama?
No, Alabama, Texas Christian University, formerly TCU. And he was a controversial pick even at the time. He didn't really fit what they wanted in their offense. And so they moved on from him and managed to still get a little something back, not a lot. But it gave them – they have enough flexibility that they're able to move on from him. They did do a lot that's why they'd have to move some money around too. But they spent a lot of money on free agency.
And his fantasy numbers sucked.
Well, his
numbers. He's coming around. He's a return man now with the Vikings, and he's starting to work his way into the offense. So
he may eventually bypass KJ Osborne because he's much more athletic than KJ.
Yeah.
So they have,
Well, Thielen's getting old too, so I
Yeah,
mean,
of
yeah, I
course.
mean, they're going to move on
Cleveland
from him.
doesn't drop anything, but he can't get the separation he used to get. You
Right.
know, he's
They're going
not
to move on
getting
from him.
open
So,
like he
yeah.
used to. You know?
yeah. So I mean, it's not that he doesn't have a fit somewhere. It's just that he just didn't fit with the Phillies scheme of things. I don't think.
Well, also he did, yeah, he didn't fit terribly well with what they were doing, and he's not quite what they thought he was as a player. But he'll be better fit as like a wide receiver 3 someplace, maybe even work his way up to a 2. So the Chargers have $3,171,341 in cap space right now. So they might not be a great fit. Well, I mean, he's only going to play a handful of games this year. So if it's a 1-year deal, we want a 2-year deal.
Well,
Well,
if he's not going to be available for 5 weeks, what's he going to play? 3 games?
well,
And,
probably
two-
less than that. He's going to play. He's going to play maybe one regular season game, but mostly you want him for the playoff run. That's why people
right.
want him.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. One regular
Yeah,
season
one regular
game.
season game at most.
Yeah,
But
and,
people
and
want him for
two.
the playoff run. Yeah.
Right. So we'll see. Mr. Scott, let me see. Do you want to talk about the 49ers or do you want to talk about the Rams? I'm going to give you a choice.
The Rams, it's a wrap. You know, with the Rams, it's
Okay. All right, then let's talk about the 49ers. And I'll give Bill the softball here with the Rams. But next man up, Cinderfella, Mr. Irrelevant, last man taken in the draft. All of these describe Brock Purdy, who has now become a cog in the 49ers playoffs hopes. Mr. Scott, if Brock Purdy has a pretty good season, i.e., 3-2 record, do you keep him as your starter if Jimmy Horn becomes available?
I don't know much about him. I guess he's going to finish out the year, but I don't know why people don't like Garoppolo. I mean, I really don't. I mean, I don't see what failures he's done. I mean, if you build a team around him, you got a running attack. You got I I think he's if he had stayed there, I think the 49ers would be dangerous. Now it's kind of up in the air. They're a strong team all the way around, but now at quarterback, I don't know much about this guy.
Well, he's been around for a little while, but I mean, he's definitely not a household name. If he was number 3 on the depth chart at the 49ers, so I mean, but from the looks and from the remarks of the team, which I mean, what do you expect them to say? But I mean, from the remarks, it seems like the team might be behind him, and he does have a very good defense that he can kind of fall back on, and I mean, he
Yeah.
has weapons. I mean, I when you look at the weapons, Stevie Wonder might be able to run this offense. Who knows? But
Well, let's see what we can do with Brady this week. We'll see.
well, we'll see. But then again, the Bucks only scored 17 points last week. Mister Scott, is that a good measuring stick? I mean, 17-16. Have the Bucks scored more than 20 points in the last 3 games? I
Well,
don't
we
know.
won that 17. Just win, baby. That's what the name.
You say
Just win,
just,
baby.
just
Yeah.
win, baby. Uh, Speaking of just win, baby, Bill, the Rams, as we said, picked up Baker off the waiver wire. Uh, so this is a two-part question here. Uh, Sean was offered the Amazon Prime job of calling these Thursday night games. Mr. Scott, the score is now 16-10. Uh,
Mm.
so the Rams have made it a little closer. There's 3 minutes and 19 seconds left in
The fourth
the
quarter.
fourth quarter. So maybe they're expecting some Brady heroics to come in from uh, Baker. But Bill, now, as I was saying, Sean was offered that Amazon Prime job here on Thursday night. So, uh, every coach that Baker has played for so far has been fired. So, do you think that Sean might be on his way to taking that Amazon Prime job? And do you think that this is possibly Baker's last hurrah, Bill?
I no to both. I don't think that McVay's going to get fired. At least not anytime soon.
I didn't say he was going to get fired. I said, is he on his way to taking the Amazon Prime job? I didn't say he was going to get fired.
Not we're still talking about Sean McVay, yes, right?
Right. I didn't say he was going to get fired. I didn't say he was going to get fired. But Amazon Prime is offering more money and a more stable career right now than the Rams. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I'm agreeing. Yeah, because the only way to get fired from being a color analyst or whatever, one is to say one of the magic words on air. Just be a total like diva that nobody wants to work with, and like miss your flight. I mean, if you don't do one of those three things, you're probably going to be okay. So you're right. There's not as much pressure, and you're unlikely to get bounced unless you do something awful. But yes, and the second part of your question was what again?
Is this Baker's last hurrah?
It is not. When people once again, as I said before,
I mean, nobody picked him up off the waiver wire but the Rams.
Right. I mean, what were you expecting? I mean, look at where we are in the season. And you have to absorb not all, but some of his contract. He was not, he wasn't making a pittance. I mean, once again, do I have to remind people how the salary cap works? You have to pick up some of that contract. If he were like Tyrod Taylor, or if he were, Josh Jones, or if he were like a bargain basement guy, that would have been a feeding frenzy for him to upgrade your backup position. He was making starter money, James.
He was a starter.
That's my point. So you see what I'm saying? So you have to pay. I think people don't understand how the salary cap works. So only a couple of teams could have even done it, even if they wanted to. Only a couple of teams had the room to do it. Then you add to the point that you'd have to need a quarterback who wants to be paid like a starter. And you'd have to teach him, you have to believe that he can learn your offense fast enough to be of use before the season's over.
I'd say, 23 hours, less than 23 hours, But,
which is a testament, one, to how fast that guy can learn stuff, and two, they probably did a pretty darn good job of teaching it, and three, they obviously had to shorten up the playbook.
I'm sure they did all of those things, but
they had to,
yeah. Mr. Scott, if you had to vote today, who would be your offensive rookie of the year and your defensive rookie of the year?
God, I don't know. I don't know. I'm stumped on that. Are you talking about UFC or which?
Either one. No, I'm saying total. AFC offensive rookie of the year. I'm just talking about your NFL rookie of the year, offensively or defensively, regardless of what conference he would come out of.
Oh boy, I don't even have a guess.
Bill, I'm sure you got a couple of nominations.
I've got several. So the guy that really
just give us a couple. It's already
the guy who really had the inside track but got hurt was Kenneth Walker, right? And then once he went down, that opened it up. Christian Watson and Garrett Wilson, 2 rookie wide receivers, one with, of course, the Green Bay Packers and the other with the Jets, are right there in there. On the other side of the ball, you've got Ahmad Sauce Gardner, who's off to a great start with the Jets. Aiden Hutchinson is somewhere in the mix, though I think Sauce is above him. Jahan Gardner is a guy that has Jahan Dotson has an outside chance. But the people that I think have the best chance so far, the aforementioned Garrett Wilson and Christian Watson. Garrett Wilson on the AFC side, Watson on the NFC side. Another contender, strong contender on the NFC side is Chris Olave. Last but not least, Brian Robinson, running back of the Washington Commanders, is somewhere in that mix. The guy that I think ends up winning it, the guy that I picked before the season, who's I think has the best chance to contend with Sauce Gardner, is Tariq Woolen, who leads the entire NFL in interceptions. He's 6'3" and 7/8 of an inch, 211 pounds, and ran 4.28. He is a once every 20-year type talent. He has a chance to be a truly great corner. He was just 2.5 years ago, he was still playing wide receiver at UTSA, got converted over late in his career, a la Richard Sherman. But unlike Richard Sherman, who was purely a zone guy, this guy can play zone and can play man. He bump and bail. You can do a lot of different things with him, and he's still learning. Like there's a lot because he was a wide receiver so recently. He's still learning how to play corner, but off the charts talented.
And that would be your offensive and defensive rookie.
I went through the guys that I think have the strongest chance to win it. Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's get on to our NFL predictions. We got 13 games this week. So let's start here. By the way, the spread tonight was 5.5 points. And right now, the Raiders are
up by 6. So if you took the Raiders, you are praying and hoping that the next minute and 45 seconds run off the clock without the Rams scoring any kind of way.
Look at that punt there. Did you see how that hugged the sidelines, rolled down to the 2? Well, hey.
That's why A.J. Cole is what – say what you want about the Raiders. They have really good special teams. Carlson, their place kicker, is one of the top 6 or so guys in the league.
Yeah, I don't see why the Vikings got rid of him. The Vikings drafted him in a 5th-round pick and got rid of him. But that's Zimmer. See, that was –
Did you see this ball roll, Mr. Scott? Oh, no, you're not watching Amazon Prime. But anyway.
No, I can't see it.
Okay, so let's start. As I said, the spread tonight is the Raiders are favored by 5.5, and right now they are covering the spread.
What's the score?
16-10.
Oh,
this can be another Brady, 17-16, but we'll see. Okay, so Mr. Scott. Our first 2 games, the Jets getting 9.5 at the Bills.
I think the Jets got enough life to cover that 9.5. Boy, and I'm so sick of these hooks. All these doggone lines, they all got a half on them. I mean, it's just terrible. These bookies are just terrible. They're just despicable. I don't know how they get away with this stuff. But I have to take that 9.5. I think the Jets have enough life to cover that.
Okay, the Clowns getting 6.5 at the Bengals.
Boy, Cincinnati has looked good, beating Kansas City like that. Red Dog Watson might be getting a little bit better. I'll take the 6.5.
Okay. Bill, the Jets plus 9.5.
Yeah, I'll take the Jets. Yeah, I'll take the Jets. That's a lot of. The Jets are playing much better now they've got Mike White under center, and I think the Bills are going to go through kind of a rough patch. I mean, they're still going to make the playoffs. They're going to win a lot of games, but I just think the Bills are. It's not just even just the Von Miller thing. Even before that, I saw a little bit of the wind coming out of their sails.
Let's see. The Clowns getting 6.5 at the Bungles, Bill.
Yeah, that's tight. That scares me a little bit. But I'm going to go with the Bengals, probably just barely covering that. Yeah.
Okay. The Texans getting 17.5 at
Oh
the
my
Cowboys.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. That is. I mean, the Texans are terrible, but that's a lot of points. There's so many things that could happen in a game that are preventing you from covering that number. I think the Cowboys win this game by at least 2 touchdowns, maybe even 17. But that's that hook, as Mr. Scott keeps pointing out. I mean, I something I never thought I'd say, but I'm going to take the Texans.
Okay. Bill, the Vikings giving the Lions a 0.5 point.
Ugh. I'm going to take the Lions. I don't know why they did that, bother to do that, but yeah, I'm going to take the Lions.
Okay, Mr. Scott, the Texans getting 17.5 from the Cowboys.
God. Boy, yeah, this is just for fun. I mean, I wouldn't even touch 17.5. I mean, that's just.
No,
But for
I'm not saying that
purpose,
for a house, Mr. Scott. I wouldn't bet on that game, no.
but purpose of this, I would take the Cowboys just because I just don't think Lovey has a clue anymore. So I don't know why they brought Lovey in, and I like Lovey, but no win situation for him.
Well, it's a terrible roster. That's the first thing. I mean, you could literally have a staff that had Bill Walsh, Sid Gilman, Don Coryell, Bill Belichick, Vince Lombardi, Parcells, and they might win 5 games.
Let's see. 1st and 10. 15 seconds left. And the Rams are on the Raiders. What is that, 28, Bill?
Yep.
Oh, God. So they're going to kick a field goal?
Well, no, they can't kick a field goal. It's not that much.
Oh, they did score a touchdown. Okay. Van Jefferson just got a touchdown. If they kick an extra point, they win.
I thought they just took a timeout.
What?
8 plays, 98 yards in 1 minute and 36 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's 2nd and 10, Bill. At least that's what I got.
You may want to sign up for the faster package.
Now they just showed it. Touchdown.
You better sign up for the faster package there. Right? Spend the extra $1, James.
So right now with 9 seconds left,
they're gonna
it's 16-16, and Baker Mayfield pulls a Tom Brady on his first game as a Ram.
And won't be his last game as a Ram. He's going to probably finish out the year as a starter. And because of their situation, remember, this is a team that's traded away all its top draft picks for about the next 3 years. So if he plays well down the stretch, he's probably the starting quarterback next year.
Yeah. Okay.
So Vegas lost.
Yes.
Yeah.
They definitely lost on this one. So,
yeah, I'm through with them. I'm through with them. It's ridiculous.
Oh, so Mr. Scott, are you taking the title to the car on the Rams? Only a 0.5 point on the Vikings, a 0.5 point, or you said earlier you had some doubts about this game. The Lions might win this game straight up.
Boy, a 0.5 point. I thought it was 2 when I saw. I thought it was 2 points. Half a point. Gosh.
Would you take him with the 2?
Oh, man. That is a real. I'm going to take the Lions. There's too much monkeying around with the points and stuff. I'm still going to stick with them.
Okay. Mr. Scott, the Jaguars +3 playing at the Titans.
Well, Titans got to get this thing together. I mean, either they're a good team or they're not. And so this is, I'm taking them. They should be able to win. They burnt me, but I'm going to take them.
Mr. Scott, the Eagles +7.5 at the Giants.
+7.5.
Yeah, the Eagles are giving the Giants 7.5.
Wait a minute. Giants. I'll take the Giants.
Okay.
I'll take the points.
Bill, the Jags +3.5 at the Titans.
Yeah, give me the Titans, though it's gonna be a really close game. I think the Titans win it by 4, and you said 3.5, so I'll stick with them, but it's gonna be close.
Okay, Bill, the Eagles giving the Giants 7.5 at the Giants.
I think I'll take the Giants. I think the Eagles win by probably about 6 points, but I don't think they'll cover 7.5.
Okay, Bill, the Ratbirds giving my Steelers 2.5 at the Steelers.
You said 2.5. That's all.
Yep.
Ugh. I thought they'd get more points than that.
Well, they were before Lamar went out.
No, I understand, but I mean, and I'm not minimizing the loss of Lamar Jackson. I promise you, I'm not. I just think that Tyler Huntley shows people. I mean, he's not Lamar, but I think he shows people that he's. There might be a nice little bidding war for him when his contract, his rookie deal comes up, which I think is at the end of next season because he wasn't a first rounder. I think it's just a 4-year deal for him. He's a good player. I just think that it's going to be a close game, but 2.5. I think they can cover it.
Bill, the Chiefs giving the Ponies, aka the Broncos, 8.5 at Denver.
I think they win that game by about 13 points, 10 to 13 points. So yeah, I think they'll cover that.
Okay, let's see. Mr. Scott, where did we stop? We stopped at the Eagles and the Giants, was it?
Yeah, I already said the Giants.
Okay, so the Ratbirds against my Steelers getting 2.5.
Yeah, the Steelers just seem like they just still have a little life in them. I'm gonna take the Steelers.
The Chiefs giving the Broncos 8.5 at Denver.
Broncos have been lifeless. I don't know what's wrong with Russell Wilson. It's just not working. Chiefs, get well. Chiefs should go there and take care of business.
Okay. The Buccaneers getting 3.5 at the 49ers.
Well, I'll take Brady. I'll take Brady.
Okay. Bill, Chiefs against the Broncos.
I've been asked that one before, but I'll do it again.
Yeah, okay. Well, no, that's right. The Broncos against the Panthers.
Oh, wait, the Broncos.
I mean, the Bucks against. Wait, you made me mess up here. Let's see.
Oh, okay.
You did the Chiefs and the Broncos.
Uh-huh.
So you're on the Bucks against the 49ers. The Bucks are getting 3.5, and they're playing in San Francisco.
Yeah, I think San Francisco managed to cover the 3.5.
The Panthers getting 3.5, playing at the Seahawks.
Panthers are getting 3.5 at. I'll take the Seahawks. I think I can cover 3.5.
Okay. Bill, the fans giving three, 2.5, playing the 6 votes, aka the Chargers. Not quite a 12-vote battery anymore.
Right. So the Bears are getting how many you said?
Miami.
Dolphins are
Oh,
getting
the Dolphins.
2.5. Are giving 2.5 to the Chargers. The Chargers are at home.
Okay. Yeah, I will take the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins right the ship.
And Bill, the Monday night game, the Patriots minus 2.5 at the Cardinals.
Okay, the Patriots minus 2. Yeah, I'll take the Patriots. I mean, the Cardinals. I feel very proud of because a lot of people were picking the Cardinals. Some people had them as a contender for the Super Bowl. A lot of people were picking them to win their division. And I said they were going to win 6 games this year. So I'm going to stick with that. I think they're going to have a really bad season. I think that this is going to be a win for the Bucks. Was it not the Bucks? Who are they playing again?
The Cardinals.
No, but who are they playing again? The
Pats are playing the Cardinals. Pats are getting
right. Sorry, the Patriots. I knew it was a team that Brady quarterbacks. Right. Not the yes. Not the Bucks. The Patriots. Yes, I'll take the Patriots.
Mr. Scott, you took Brady, so the last game, let's start the Panthers getting 3.5 at the Seahawks.
Geno Smith. Yeah. Take Geno Smith's on a roll. This could get very interesting. This is a team they should win and keep marching.
Okay. What about the Dolphins against the Chargers? The Dolphins being a 2.5 point favorite.
Yeah, I like the Dolphins in this game. Yeah, they score points and they'll get it done.
And who do you like Monday night, Mr. Scott? The Patriots plus 2.5. No, the Patriots minus 2.5 at the Cardinals.
Yeah, the Cardinals just seem disarray. The quarterback seems confused, and he still looks too little to me. I don't care. Bill disputes that. He says he's not. He just looks too tiny to me. I don't know what it is. Oh, diminutive.
Virtually
diminutive. Oh, like Billy Barty or somebody.
He is a quarter of an inch shorter, but
why does he look so little?
But 4 pounds heavier than Russell Wilson was when they were both weighed and measured at the combine. They're virtually
Gary Coleman, Webster. He looks like almost.
Like he looks like Webster. We don't have to pay no residuals for that, Mr. Clark. Oh man! Hey, great show tonight, fellas. Glad to have you both in. Bill, you want to give us your final thoughts for the night, and
Sure.
Mr. Scott, you can take us home.
So my final thought is: on this day in 1955, Larry Campanella won his third most valuable player award, National League.
Roy Campanella.
Did I not say Roy Campanella?
He said Larry, I thought. Wait a minute.
Oh, I hope I didn't say Larry. Okay, if I did, good God, sorry. Roy Campanella won his third MVP trophy. And I think people understand that he was a great player. I think they don't realize how great a player he was. He was a bit overshadowed in his era because there were a lot of other great players. Stan Musial was still plying his trade in the National League. He overlapped. Obviously, he follows Jackie onto the Dodgers, and Jackie drew a lot of fire and also a lot of attention for what he did in terms of breaking the color line. But I can't think of more than a couple of catchers that were equally great as offensive and defensive players as he was as a catcher. I mean, Johnny Bench clearly is up there. Pudge Rodriguez, I guess, is up there.
Yogi.
Yogi, I guess, is in that conversation, and that's probably about it to me. I mean, there's some guys in the Negro Leagues like Josh Gibson in his prime, and a few others who I guess I'd throw in there. Maybe Biz Mackey, Quincy Troop, whatever. But it's a short list. And Roy, of course, did play in the Negro Leagues and was an All-Star a couple of years, a Negro League All-Star a couple of years before he eventually, even though he's very young, as a youngster, he played in the Negro Leagues. But he's one of the greatest catchers, all-around catchers in the history of the game. And like I said, to win 3 MVP trophies, I hope people understand, just what a tremendous player he was. He had a tremendous throwing arm. He had really soft hands. Caught a lot of guys who could throw really hard and guys who could throw really soft, like guys who were junk ballers and a lot of movement. He caught those guys. He caught guys that were fireballers. Caught them all well. Framed their pitches well is the term they use now. Frame. He was good at. No one's using that term in those days, but he was good at that. He could steal the occasional strike. Like I said, he cut down a lot of really good base runners. And he was a terrific hitter. I can't imagine how much money he'd make nowadays, right? I mean, we talked about what the contracts are nowadays. He'd be a guy who'd be making, probably in the upper 20s to low 30s per year, right? Nowadays, with all the things he could do. And unfortunately, his career was cut short by a car accident. But he had he was really impressive and really productive throughout the heart of his career. Like I said, which sadly would have probably been another 2 or 3 years longer if not for that accident. And so I hope that when we make our list of like the greatest of all time in certain positions, while he might not be number one, like I said, to me, he's got to be at least in the top 5 or 6. And so that's my final thought is about the greatness that was one Roy Campanella.
Take us home, Mr. Scott. Great having you on this evening as always.
Thank you.
Look forward to having you on. That's just in my opinion, of course. But we look forward to having you on again next week.
Great. And if I'm not mistaken, Bill, I think Roy Campanella played for the Saints in St. Paul because there was 2 minor league teams in the St. Paul Saints and the Minneapolis Millers. Yep. And I mean, the Dodgers and the Giants had their minor league teams. I mean, Willie Mays played up here. Ray Dandridge played up here. Yep. I mean, there was a lot of just Orlando Cepeda played up here. I mean, there was just so many great players that played at those 2, Minneapolis, St. Paul before the Twins got here. I mean, it's just really, makes me think back about that. But basically, I'm just going to sign off that, another police shooting here in the Twin Cities. I don't know if I've gotten calls from people around the country about that. St. Paul had to boil their water, had something wrong with their water. People couldn't drink the water for weeks. Had to boil water.
So Bill shows off his gallon of water. So.
And another woman shot on the north side. I mean, the script has been flipped here so much. It's just, it's just not what we've been used to over the years here. So maybe with this winter, it'll slow everybody down because it's certainly here now. I need to get up to San Diego or somewhere like that where it's warm. I need to find maybe a trailer or something out there, just anything to get up out of here.
You're going to become a snowbird?
Mr. Scott, I'm looking for a lot out here. We can put 2 tiny houses on it. You can have a vacation house right out here on the ocean.
That would work. That would work. I'm in.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend. I look forward to talking to everybody this weekend. Bill, I won't see you this Monday, but
the one after
Scott,
that.
I hope that you'll join us this Monday. I have a great Malcolm X segment that I'm going to be sending out to everybody. That
did you do one last Monday? I tried to sign in.
Yes, I did do one. I always try to send you one separately, but I'll make sure that you get one. That you get one. And like I said, this week we'll be talking about Malcolm X. We'll be talking about your favorite guy, Mr. Herschel Walker, among some other things. So I look forward to
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
with
Pootie
you.
lost. Yeah, Pootie lost. So everybody's upset.
All right, guys. Talk to you next week. Have a great time. Enjoy your sports weekend. And hey, shout out to Demetrius and his situation. We hope things are improved soon. We hope that Spencer is safe there doing work,
Right.
his work there in Florida and the surrounding areas. So have a great night, everyone, and enjoy your sports and enjoy life. Have a great night. Talk
All
to you
right.
next week.
Good night. See you guys in a week.